Hey guys, it's Jamie in Bush and I'm super excited to share this dish with you. It's my kung pao chicken, sweet, salty, sour, spicy, it's got it all. So let's get into it. Okay, so what we need for this dish is I'm going to use chicken thigh. So here is about 550 grams, which I'm going to lightly dust with some corn flour. So that will help thicken the sauce later on. A couple of chilies, ginger and garlic paste, some sichuan pepper, spring onions, coriander, soy sauce, light or dark, doesn't really matter. Shoaxing, this is a Chinese cooking wine. You can pretty much pick this up in any supermarket now. We're going to use cashews instead of peanuts, chicken stock, and I'm going to use peanut oil. So you can pretty much use any oil that you want. But what you really need to have is a high smoke point oil. So try to avoid olive oil because you won't be able to get the heat before it starts to burn and it's carcinogenic. So canola, vegetable or peanut would work really well for this dish. So to kick this one off, we want a really light dusting of corn flour on the chicken. So be careful not to add too much, because if you add too much it will go gloopy later on. It's literally just a really light coating, so probably even a teaspoon would be enough for this amount. So that can go in, and then once that's coated we can fire up the pan in with some peanut oil, and then we're going to fry that until we get a nice consistent even golden color all over the chicken. So we just wait for that to get up to temperature and then we can go in with the chicken. So that can sit on the side, and while that's heating up we can just put our spring onions into battens. So if you've got any dirty ones, outer layers, you can just peel those off. So it's nice and clean. Pull the roots off, and then they can just go straight into battens. So the chicken go in. You just want to have an even layer, so don't stack it up, because firstly, if you overcrowd the pan, it's going to drop the temperature and then you're almost going to stew it instead of fry it, and you want an even cook. So if they're all stacked up on top of each other, you're not going to get an even cook. So just put those in so it's a flat layer. If you need to do it in 2 batches, then that's okay. And break it up with a spoon so it's not all sticking together, because that won't allow it to cook evenly either. So that can fry off. I've got a sieve here, so I'm just going to take it out once I've got that colour on it, and then we're going to do the other ingredients, and then we add the chicken back in and add our stock, add the chicken, and then we cook down. So it's kind of makes it a two-step cook, but it's still a really quick dish. This will actually all fit in. So those chicken bits are just like nice size bite-sized pieces for chopsticks, so everything will be pretty similar size. So we've got our nice like small battens, and then the cashews are going to go in, so everything is pretty much a similar size, just to make it easier to eat. Just get a nice colour on that. The spring onions can go to one side. We can use the tops as garnish, but in the dish we're only going to use the stem. Make sure you wash your coriander really well. There's always a lot of dirt and possibly like small little pebbles or stones can get caught up in the root. So just make sure you wash that really well, give it a good soak, rinse, and then just shake it off and dry it off. Get a nice colour on there, and then we can start with the chillies. So I always leave the chillies big enough, or even the same size as the chicken. You want them big enough to be able to pick out. So if you don't like that heat, then you can get rid of them, and then if you're keen on the heat, then obviously you can chow down on them. So depending on your preference will depend on the size, and also if you want to keep the seeds in or out. So we actually fry these off in the oil that the chicken's going to come out of, and that makes the oil really fragrant, and you're going to get that spice into the oil. So if you have the chilies in there, then it's going to be a considerable amount hotter than if you take them out. These chilies are the mildest, so if you want hotter ones, you can get the bird's eye or the habaneros, but these ones are pretty tame, so you don't need to worry about making it overly spicy if you've got people that aren't too keen on high heat. So once we've got some nice colour, even colour all over the chicken, we can just remove that. It doesn't need to be cooked at this point because it's going to go in with the stock. So we can just drain this off. If you have a lot of oil in your pan, because with the thigh you're normally going to have some fat on it, which will actually render. So even though you put some in at the beginning, normally you would have less oil. For this, you probably end up having a bit more. So if you think you've got too much, then just drain that off, so you don't have it really greasy at the end. And also that fat is full of chicken flavour. So once that's come out, we can go in with the chilies, and then we want to fry those off until the oil becomes fragrant, because that will really develop the flavours of the dish. If you don't get that fry on the chilies, it doesn't taste the same. So it's quite an important step to get a really good flavour on the dish. So in the pan we've got little bits of chicken that have stayed. So those little bits of chicken will caramelise and pretty much just create little flavour punches. So you'll get a lot more flavour. So don't clean the pan in between, because what we're going to do is, in the French way of cooking, is you would call that like deglazing the pan. So when we go in with a chicken stock, everything that's on the bottom of the pan will be like released from the bottom of the pan and then brought into the dish, so you're getting a lot more flavour. So those have got a really nice colour on now. So I've got my cashews. You can use peanuts or leave it out completely. Just going to put those in, and then in with my ginger and garlic. So there's about a teaspoon of ginger, and a little bit less of the garlic. The chicken can go in. And then I've got some sichuan. This is the one that you can easily find in the supermarkets, but if you can get the sichuan whole peppercorns, then you just need to pound those with a pestle and mortar. And I'm going in with about a level teaspoon of that. So that will give the chicken a nice coating. Add some chicken stock, and the chicken stock then is just going to create a sauce with the corn flour. So you can add the spring onions at any point. I like to leave them until the very end. One, because they lose their colour, and two, the crunch. So I'm going to cook it down until we're almost there before I add those, but if you like them well cooked, you can just add them in at this point. And then we've got the Chinese cooking wine. So I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of the shoaxing in, and also of the soy sauce. So that will be the salt, so you don't need to add any seasoning to this one, because the soy sauce will do that job. So the only thing left is the coriander. So if you've got some big stems, just pick those ones out. It's just a well-rounded dish. So you don't need to overly over chop it. Just if you run it through once or twice, that will be plenty. So just give it a light chop. You don't want to if you over chop it, what happens is, like, when you see your board is green, you're losing all that flavour going into the board, and then it's not actually going into the dish, and it's just over chopped and bleeding. So you don't want your chopping board to have any green stains on it. So just a really light chop, and if it's not light enough, then you can just run the knife through and do it that way. So I'm just going to give this a few minutes to cook down. Okay, so my chicken stock is down by about 70% now, and that's going to go down until there's only a really small amount of coating on the chicken. So this is where it was important that you don't add too much corn flour, because it will become gloopy, and if you added too much, it would already be really thick now. So that was quite important. And then I'm just going to go in with my spring onions that can go on top. And we just leave those steam on top for the minute, and then when it gets closer to the end, I'm just going to toss them in. So now I'm just going to toss those in. You can see that there's not much liquid left. So once I can actually see the bottom of the pan, then I'm going to turn off the heat completely. So we're super close with this one. Probably another minute and we've got all that evaporation and flavour compacted into the dish. Obviously, if you like it saucy, if you're going to serve it with rice and you want enough sauce for the rice, then you don't need to take it so far. So it's all personal preference and there's no written rules. And then once the heat is turned off, then we go in with our coriander. So if you add it too early, it will just cook down, and you won't get the freshness of the herbs. It will just cook into the dish. So always turn off the heat before you add any herb. So you can see now that that's pretty dry. So that will do it. So can go in with the coriander, give that a toss, and then we're ready to serve. And then we can just pour that into a bowl. Just spoon it into your serving bowl. Put this in the table for everyone to help themselves, and happy days. So that's it, just pile it high. You can serve it with noodles, rice dish, whatever you want. And that is it. Easy as. And that's it, guys, an awesome midweek meal for you to try. So if you like this video, hit the bell, get notified when I put my next video up, and until then, happy cooking, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. That's good.